Nice. Nice. Cool. Okay, we are going live. Okay, guys, let's begin today. We're going to make a really short session today related to tutorials. After that, what Aman is going to show you, we're going to go directly into the boards just to see what are you doing, what you're thinking, to try to pack everything you have for the exhibition. Okay, so Aman, I think you can continue now.
All right. Okay. So guys, hi. So I'm just going to show you guys how I actually import the models from Maya to Unreal Engine and how I usually texture my models. So I use both the methods of texturing. So I texture them on Unreal Engine, but mostly I use Quixel Mixer. So I'll be showing you how I do it over there as well. So it's a free software. It's a really cool software, and it works kind of like Photoshop, where you can mix and match materials inside. So yeah, I'll probably be showing you guys that. If you want to use that, you can. Otherwise, you can just texture stuff in Unreal Engine as well. I can even show you guys a tutorial about it. All right, so very quick, share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a very quick tutorial on UV texturing. Can you see my screen?
Sure.
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So this is a model which I had made just for fun, like to show you guys how we properly UV texture this entire thing. So as you can see right now, so if you go here on the top in modeling, you can go to the UV and just click on the UV editor. Yeah, so you'll have these two of these windows that pop up. So I think I can just put this over here, UV editor, and I drag this over here, right? So you can snap it to the positions if you want. So now I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels. And that's all right. I mean, UV texturing won't take so long. I mean, it could, depending on the complexity of your model, but in this case, it's not very complex. So, right. So if you click on it, so at the moment over here, there won't be any UVs unless you may have made some in some of the software. Like, for example, over here, if I click on this one, which I had made some, so you'll see like, these kind of things which are like unwrapped. So in this case, we don't have any, so you won't see anything. So yeah, so we can start from this. So the problem which I find with, so in this one, I applied the spherical mapping, and you can see how distorted it looks like. And all these issues can be fixed with triplanar mapping. So if you use a triplanar mapping, it's gonna ignore all this and just create a texture on top of it. So that's available on Adobe Substance Painter, but it's not available on Pixel. So we'll have to map our objects properly before we take it there. And I feel it's good for us to know how to do it, because if someone's going in the gaming industry, we really have to, struggle a lot with this issue. All right, so I'm taking the model which I don't have any UV map on it, and I'm going to start. So what's the main things that go? Okay, so we have this in your UV toolkit. So you may see it like this. What we're going to use is the cut and the sew and the unfold. And at the end, we'll be using the arrange and layout. So these things, these three tabs I use the most. And in these tabs, I use only cut, I use unfold, and at the end, I use layout. That's it. Right, so let's begin. You can first click the object and you'll get this over here, the map. You can go to edge mode and we can start, slicing our entire mesh. So how to select something in a loop? You basically, you select one, you shift, select the other, but you double click on it. So it goes select either the whole loop or here, we have the edge. So you can keep doing that for all your edges. So why I'm cutting over here is because, so, okay, let me just first of all explain why we cut the models. So we need a seam in our models. Like, so, for example, if I'm texturing this whole thing, there's always going to be a cut where, the texture sort of breaks. So like, it's like, how a cube has like 6 sides. And if we, if we unwrap the cube and lay it down in 2D, it's going to have a seam always. So that's where the texture ends. So you'll see, so if I place like a grid texture over here and over here, this seam is going to basically be our edge where the texture is going to break off, and we need those. It's really important. So I can show you example. So if I want this portion to be cut out from the model, I basically select all this. So I want to take this entire the inner piece out as it is. So after I've selected both loops, I just click on cut. Sorry, one sec. So okay, so for this to work, you need like a map, like which is already there. So you can just go to create over here. You can just go to camera based. So depending on the camera, it's basically going to give you a map, which in this case it's very messed up. I don't know why it's so messed up. One sec, let me just fix this issue. I know this is quite annoying. Camera based. Yeah, okay. So depending on your camera, it's going to just give you like a map. And if you click on this over here, or is it as these things? Yeah, if you click on this, it's going to give you a preview how a texture would look like. So at the moment, you can see that it's all right, but it has a lot of stretch like over here. So if you place a texture, it's going to stretch a lot over here. And that's why we need seams. So we make cuts so that the entire thing is, very constant. I hope you guys understood this concept because it was really hard for me to understand. So yeah, if you guys have any doubts, we can clear it out later. But yeah, let's switch that off for now. And let's try again to slice the whole thing. And by the way, I'm not going to cut the whole thing because it may take like half an hour. And I don't want to waste, but I'm just going to show you the basics of how to do it. Because I have a model of this already UV cut, which I can show you. Right, so after I've selected both these edges, I use cut. And now basically on this, if you just go to object mode and you just select this, you'll have like, it's going to be this ring, but you'll actually see a bit of a thick, like a seam that's made. So if you right click, go on UV, you can double click on any, press W and move it. And you'll see that this portion is now cut out. So this portion is your UV cut. which I've made. And after I select this, I will click on the whole thing, select it, you choose just to unfold. And now I've got a proper, cut of one portion of a model. So if I apply texture now on this, you can see that it's quite good in terms of the grid. Like it's very, even, the squares. So yeah, that's how the concept of UV mapping works. I know it's a bit difficult to understand this whole concept, but yeah, I just want to give you guys a glimpse of how it looks like. Yeah, Arjun, you can speak.
So like I have never done UV mapping, although I've heard a lot from others. I mean, it's a very popular term and it's quite known. It's quite notorious across in the industry to be very tedious and very, kind of annoying thing. My question was
Yeah.
that turn on the checkerboard,
Mm-hmm.
the checkerboard pattern. Is it
Yeah.
necessary? Can you just do it on the right? No, on the right. No. Just turn on the checkerboard pattern on the right hand panel. Oh, yes, on the right. Yes, keep on zooming in the right hand panel only. No, not here. In the viewport, in the checkerboard pattern in the viewport only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is that some like the checkerboard pattern on the vertical surface and on the horizontal surface, they are not like uh, it's not going. The checkerboard is not folding. Like pattern is going in slightly different direction on this face, and it's going slightly different direction in the top face.
Yeah.
I hope it's making sense. Like they are not joining. Like it's not folding completely on the. If you look
So
at the top face and the vertical face. So is it necessary to have that, or is it?
if you want, then you can cut it out again. So if you don't like this, because at the moment it's fine if you put like a concrete texture, it's gonna come out really good. But if you don't like this direction, you can just cut out a seam so that this entire thing is gonna be like one big stretch, like how it falls. So let's cut this. So I
No,
have here.
I'm not talking about only one face. I'm talking like this U-shaped face and the top face, the flat face. Like
Are you seeing this
it's
one?
yeah, this one and the vertical face where that you were mentioning. So the
Mm-hmm.
seam, this thick blue seam, the texture should ideally fold, no? So the checkerboard pattern should ideally fold at the junction. So
Yeah,
that
so
is not
that's
folding.
Yeah, so that's up to you, like where you want to apply the seams. Because I know that, like, inside the game, I'm going to walk around like this, so I'm not going to see this portion.
Okay, right.
So you can basically hack, so that's why it's important to place your seams in positions where you know that you won't go.
All right.
Yeah. So if I'm like over here, let me just take these out and explain. So if I'm over here in this model, and if I have to walk from here, like from here, so I'm not going to place my seam in this space because I don't want to see any, texture distortion over here. Maybe I'm going to place it on this side, like the whole seam, because I know that I'm not going to go, over there, and I'm just going to be like, walking around here in the interior. So that's completely up to us where we want to apply the seam.
Okay, right. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So go back to this. Take it with this. Yeah. Okay. I think that's much better. Right. Okay. So at the moment now we have one entire face which we cut out and we unfolded it. So like that, we can basically do it for the whole thing, but I don't know whether I want to do it for the whole thing, maybe I can just show you the file which I've made in which I have done for the whole thing, and then we can see what I've done. 1 second, let me just shop sharing and show you guys again. Guys, if you have any questions about this, you can completely ask me, because this one is a really complicated concept. Like UV texturing is very, very complicated. So if you guys have any doubts or any issues that you're facing, you can ask me. But if you don't like to do that, I advise you to install Substance Painter and to use triplanar mapping. So it's gonna basically, so that if you use triplanar mapping, it's gonna kind of say like ignore your seams and just paint all over your object. Yeah, okay, so let me share again the same model. Sorry, is someone speaking?
Yeah, I was asking that, can you share a suitable tutorial for the biplanar mapping for Substance? I think for like newbie people like me, like I'm still catching up the Houdini, the previous Houdini and particles tutorial. So having a very
okay. I can at the moment I don't have Substance Painter because but okay, let me see if I can install it tonight, and I'll make a tutorial about it for sure.
I'm just asking that any relevant tutorial that you might have found or you have saved in a particular playlist or something like that. Can you share the link so that after the workshop ends, we can go through that and learn that process?
Yeah,
I think that's
sure.
Aman.
Yeah.
Hi. How about automatic unwrapping or project from view functions? Like, why don't you use them and do it by hand? What's the
well, automatic, it works sometimes, but if like if the geometry is like very, very complex, I find a lot of issues when I take it to Unreal Engine. It doesn't texture properly on some of the areas. So that's the only reason why I use it. I do it manually, or I use triplanar mapping from Substance.
Yeah, I definitely agree that those automatic ones really don't work well with texturing. But for example, here your shape is simple, yeah. When we have a very complex geometry, it's like so crazy to try to UV map that by hand.
Yes,
So
I mean,
solutions for that.
For that, I would definitely go for triplanar mapping. Like that's why it's made, the triplanar mapping. It's specifically made for, like very, very complex, geometries. It's pretty simple. It's just that I don't really have Substance at the moment, so I couldn't share. But I just thought that maybe I could share like the basics of how this works, so you guys understand how seams work and where you gotta apply seams and where you don't apply seams. So maybe when you use triplanar, then you'll know like if my mapping is good or not.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, I think by tomorrow or maybe by tonight, I can share like a very small tutorial of Substance, how to fix all these issues. But yeah, I'll definitely have it by tonight. Okay, so coming back to mapping, right? So this model I completely mapped, UV mapped the whole thing. So as you see, all these portions where I thought that I have seams. So I have seams on this edge. I selected the whole edge loop, and basically I cut it off, and I basically just cut out this area, and I used the unfolding. So it basically gave me a pretty good, shape. Then I was like, okay, fine. Maybe I can, apply the seam here for these columns. So I applied it over here on the top and at the bottom over here because I won't be seeing the bottom so much. I'm just going to be, walking straight. So that's why I put the seams here and here. So it basically gave me this thing, which was, unfolded. And yeah, basically, but in this case, I put the seam here, which was my fault, my bad. But in this case, I would definitely put it on this side, the seam. And like that, I pretty much cut out the whole thing. So basically all the edges where you think that you need seams, you just put it over there, like just cut it off over there. And that's pretty much how I, did the whole model. So you'll see that this entire thing is one, and there's like a lot of different things going on. But yeah, I mean, if Pedro, do you have any, tips for them for this?
For UV mapping,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good question. I am not an expert on UV mapping. Let me see. Let me think about it, because I normally use the automap. I usually use the cylindrical automapping for that kind of things. But I'm not an expert on UV mapping.
Okay. No worries. Okay. But yeah, guys, I'll share with you the triplane mapping, so don't worry about it. I just want to show you this workflow so you guys just, have a concept of how seams work in geometries. And okay, so after you have a UV map model, I go to Quixel. So this is Quixel Mixer. You can download it for free, which is really good. And it's basically going to open like this. And this is the software which I use to texture something like, very cool textures, and it's a lot of stuff going on. So let's see what's the thing over here. It's very simple. So you'll have these things, layers. So it's like Photoshop. You can add stuff in, you can mix and stuff. So we want to get this model. So you export this as an OBJ. OBJ's work in Quixel. You can go here in setup. So by default, it's going to be a plane, and I don't want a plane. I want a custom model, which I have. And this was the same model which I have over here. So just to keep that in mind. Right. So depending on your file size, it's going to take some time to load because it basically reads the whole thing. Yeah. I just hope I'm not teaching something which is completely useless. But yeah, taking my chances. Okay, that's quite strange. That takes so long. If anyone else has any questions, you can, feel free to ask until this loads.
I have a question, but it's related to Houdini.
Okay. Oops, it loaded. But yeah,
Okay, so
if you wanna, right. Right. So you can see, wherever the seams are, you can see it's over there. So, I intentionally had the seams over here. So it's a pretty good model, and it basically followed everything that I had on Maya. So I have the seam cut over here. I have it over here on the top. And basically it's going to be something like this. And all the grid sizes are pretty much the same, like every surface. So that's how you know that it's good. But in this case, the grid size preview is a bit large. So that's my bad because the model was a bit small, I guess. Okay, so anyway, you have this up here. You go to the layers, and here you can basically add whatever you want. If you go for add solid layer, it's just going to be color. So you only get the color of the whole thing, and you can go here and change a lot of the blend settings, the height, though these things won't work at the moment because it's just color. So you can just change the albedo. So by default, it's like gray. So you can change it to like red or something. Maybe I'll go for a bit, sandstone-ish color. Then I don't want just the colors. I want to add like a proper material. So I go to add surface layer, and Quixel has a whole bunch of materials for you to use. So it's like probably when you install Quixel, is going to be like probably 5 to 6 GB because it installs all the 4K quality materials. So you can go here and choose any that you want. So there's concrete, there's creatures. If anyone has like a skin, you can add a skin. But for my case, I guess I can just go for like concrete rough. And I think you'll see a very scaled up thing because the model is small, so that's my bad. But you can fix that by going over here to placement and reduce the scale over here. So, you can go all the way down to however you like it. And you can already see that, we are like getting there. We're getting a pretty cool thing. So now I have something like this. Right. So the next cool thing which I want to show you guys. So imagine if I have not only just concrete, but I have something else. So let's try mossy ground. And this one is going to be large because by default it's like very large. So we are going to have to reduce the scale by a lot. Or you can just increase the scale of your model from Maya and then export it over here, import it over here. So it's going to fix that. But in this case, I have to reduce this because I don't want to go back to Maya and scale it. So I have this entire thing as a moss. Now, what I can do is I can mix concrete and mossy ground. So you can go to concrete, right click, go to add mask. And basically now it just adds a mask over here of concrete. And what you can do is first hide this so I can only see the concrete. Then in this one is basically all the mask components that you have. So if you click on add mask component here, you can see you can add it with noise, with a pattern. So for example, if I add it with the noise, say the Berlin noise, so you can see that concrete, actually this is the same color. So let's change this color to like green, just for the sake of it at the moment, or not green. Let's just go for something whitish, apply. Right, so you can see it's already like doing its thing where it's trying to mix it, but you can increase a lot of things from this. You click on this and you can see there's a lot of seed, amplitude, frequency. So you can play around with this and try to get that back. Try to use a lot of different stuff to, but yeah, so this is going to be something like this. And if you want, you can mix a lot of things. Now I want to do the same thing for the mossy ground, and I want to add a mask thing and go again to add mask component. But in this case, I want to go for curvature. So what curvature does, it basically reads your entire geometry and sees where the hard edges are, and it's only going to apply this moss to that edge, all the edges of the model. So if you see the model carefully, it's just applying moss on every edge. So that's something really cool. And you can play around with all this and increase the brightness. At the moment, you won't see it only on the edges because by default, it's default curvature. But if you go to edges only, you can see it more happening on just the edges. So if I go to, say, bit like this, you can get very rough shapes, like however you want, or you can click on this So it's going to create it on everything except the edges. So at the moment, yeah, it's not looking good because, the scale issues, but yeah, so this is how I use to model some things which look like very, very, creative, I guess. Yeah, so here I want to change the amplitude again, bring in some things. And don't worry about if it doesn't look good on this, because when you export it, it exports as 4K. So when you take all these to Unreal Engine, it actually looks much better than it looks over here. So don't worry about that thinking. Right, so the Berlin noise, and yeah, so maybe let's add more stuff like mossy rocks inside. Scale is a bit high, so you go low scale. And you can again add a mask, and you go maybe like, let's say, Wally patterns, and it's going to act in the Wally pattern way. It's going to apply the pattern only on specific areas depending on the noise that you have. Yeah, so that's pretty much how I use to texture things like this. But Substance Painter has a lot of more things, because in this we can only mask, but in texture, but in Substance we can actually paint on the model itself. So wherever like you want that texture, you can paint it over there. But the only problem for Substance is it's not free. You gotta pay for it or install a crack, I would say. But yeah, so let's say that this model is almost ready to export, even though it doesn't look that great, but yeah, it is what it is.
Can you try, for example, a brushed metal on it, where the texture has a direction?
Like a brushed metal?
Yeah.
Something like this? Aluminium or?
Let me see. Like there's a directional texture on it. I just want to see how it's going to map it on the surface.
It's called directional metal or?
No, brushed, for example.
Brushed steel?
It says that, but yeah, you can try that.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much going to be add a mask, or if you don't want to add a mask, you can also play with the opacity. But yeah, that's totally up to you if you want opacity or not. Or you can play with all these settings over here where the radius and the scale, obviously, which we have made. But yeah, it's going to map something like this. But if you go to this and go to, what does normal do? Normal looks pretty cool as well. Yeah, so you can bring it up or down depending on however you want it. But yeah, I mean, it's all up to you, like how you want to experiment with your textures and stuff. But let's just say that we are done with this portion over here and we want to export this entire texture itself. Now, because we use like 1, 2, 3, 4 textures and 1 diffuse color. So when you export this entire thing, it's called export as one material. So we just apply that material on a Unreal and it's going to be as it is over here. That's the beauty of Pixel and Substance Painter and stuff. So you go to, so if you're done modeling, you just go to export and you can choose where the export location is. Let me just save it over here. File, save 4. And let me just copy it just in case I don't get the asset is William A04. And always check export model as well, because what Pixel I think does is optimizes the model on Quicksilk itself, and it basically sends it to Unreal Engine. So that's, I think, one good thing that Quicksilk does for us in terms of geometry manipulation. And after you're done with this, and if you've set export model and the subfolder, you choose all this, like just leave it as it is, because it's by default going to Unreal Engine, all of this. So you just click on quick export and you should be getting a loading screen over here on the bottom left. I think for me, it's already exported. Check it. Yeah, okay. So you see it exported the geometry and it exported the materials as well. Now we can just go to Unreal Engine and okay, let's right, sure. Save this back to save. 1 second, just slowing my computer down. Okay, just open your Unreal Engines and I'll share my screen once it's open because it may lag for me. But yeah, if someone has any doubts for Quicksilk or any other software, you can, let me know until it loads.
I have a question related to Houdini. I posted in Discord.
Okay, yeah.
So can I share my screen right now?
Yeah, sure. Let me just, okay, it's already stopped sharing. Okay.
So, like you advised me to use Thicken instead of Polyshoot, so things came out pretty well. But the only issue is I don't know how. I think they might cause trouble in textures. They might get bent. So these bent weird faces are appearing at the junctions. Although overall it looks decent, but on close-ups there are some issues like over here. So how do I fix this?
Well,
like
I need to see it again. Okay. Yeah, so you use Thicken, normal. Okay. Pedro, do you have any idea why it's?
Yeah, I think so. What we can do, it's in this duty in the step of the clustering part, you have an option to smooth all the neighbors connections. So I think we need to go back a little bit on your script. See, it's nothing edge smooth. Could you zoom in, please? Because I'm not able to see the
Is there any way
nodes.
I can pop up a new window? There is a method. I think it's there's a thing control N.
Open new window for what exactly?
For this node editor, there's a method I forgot. There is a. It opens up a separate pop-up window. It maximizes it.
Okay, if you want to maximize it, there is a white just left at the left to the row. There is a white white box up there. Not on. Oh, okay, I got it. I was thinking on the icon, but that's cool. Could you go up a little bit, please? Up. Okay. Let me see. Group from attributes. No, I'm looking for class group from attributes. Yeah, let's go. Click on the group from attribute boundary node, the one icon at the left.
Okay.
Okay, no, it's not that one. I think so. Let's go to edge smooth.
Which one?
The edge smooth. Yeah, the one that comes. Yes, there you have an option that's called neighbor smoothing. What you may do, what you want to do probably is increase the neighbor range by a lot, like 1,000 probably. And what will it do? It's it will smooth, but at the same time it will compress your geometry. So probably your geometry will change a little bit, but it will look smoother. And at the same time, increase that number by like by a lot. Use like 1000,
I should
for example.
change this to manual so that my laptop does not hang. My neighborhood range to 1000, and then again.
Yeah, and also you may increase the edge smoothing part is up there. The first option that you have is yes, that is trend. You should be higher, I think. But let's try like 500. I don't know.
500. And...
Yeah. Now let's go back to the model. Usually the neighbor smoothing helps you to control those particular seams.
Okay.
What is you can press F2 for your model.
Actually, I had turned on auto update, so that's why.
Okay, let's look for something. It helps, but it not fix all the problem. But okay, not in everything. Another thing that you could try also it's by increasing your subdivision. Of course, it will take more time to calculate, but that could be a solution.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but one way to control it is by using that smooth neighbor option. And another thing that you could do, it's you can subdivide one step more your tree and see what happens. Even though I don't know how many points you have right now on your particular model.
I should check.
Be mindful. Yeah, you can press in the I button. Oh, okay, you can subdivide even more. So yeah, let's go back. We can go back where exactly.
Delta mush I have
before doing the clustering part, you have a node that helps you control the subdivision. But I cannot understand your particular script. Let's see what's happening in Delta Mush. Let's go. Let's see what's happening. Can you click on it? But please, the first option on the nodes, remember that on the node, the first button on the right is a blue one. On the same node, we have 4 blank spaces on the same node, inside the node. Look at the node. Could you zoom in the node? Zoom in, please. Okay. On the node, you have at the right, you have 2 blank spaces, and at the left, you have 2 more blank spaces. Okay.
Yes.
Not on the wheel, but on the same node. And on the same node, you have 2 blank spaces at the right and 2 blank spaces on the left. In the same node. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
The first at the right is the blue one.
Okay.
Yes. If you click on it, we will see what's happening right now with our geometry right now. Cool. Okay. Yeah, what you can do after it before start measuring it, you can add a subdivision node. So once you measuring it, you will have better result. I think after it. Sorry.
So
after
I should add
mush, you can use
after delta mush.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But be mindful about it. This process increase exponentially your amount of points. How many points do you have? I don't know. Let's see. Okay, that looks better. How many points do you have right now?
We'll just compare.
No, that's delta mush. Probably it will multiply by 4 or 8, depending on how many subdivisions do you do. Yeah, probably multiply by 8.
But
that's cool. I mean, 2 millions. It's completely manageable here. There's no that's not a problem.
Okay.
So even though at the end can reduce the general amount of points with the node poly reduce. Okay, let's probably at the end we can try that particular node reduce, but just at the end.
So I can attach this to.
Yeah, exactly. You can reconnect it. Yeah. So try to turn. I would turn nodes step by step, but if you're really comfortable with the computer power, click on it.
Let's take a risk and see.
Yep. Probably at the end of the workshop, we will ask you to to reduce the amount of points you have in your particular model before a part of the requirements. If you wanna present our works in Decentraland, as Digital Future is asking to do, we need to reduce the amount of geometry. So I think, let me read the documentation, but I think they ask maximum 5,000 points, which is nothing. We can manage to do it. There's no problem.
Slightly diverting from like the software, I'm just talking about the remeshing only. Have you used Z-Remesher in Zbrush? It creates very smooth meshes. Z-Remesher.
Yeah, sure. I use it. Yeah.
So is there a similar tool like that in Houdini that it creates meshes according to the curvature? It creates very nice, smooth mesh.
What Polyreduce does, as suggesting, it just delete existing edges. So probably your final model will look more or less like the first one, unless there is an option in Polyreduce that is called keep the quads, I think. I'm not sure the name, but inside that particular node, you have an option to reshape it, to topologize it as quads. Polyreduce, exactly. I'm not sure if it's called contain quads, but there is one option that helps you retopologize your geometry using just quads. But be mindful about it. It depends. Using quads depends a lot of your particular geometry. If your particular geometry is too organic like this one, is too abstract like this one, I wouldn't use the quad option.
Okay. Yeah, the issue has at the cost of speed. Yeah,
it seems better, even though I see some small issues there, but there are less, I think.
So such junctions have totally disappeared, the rogue junctions. Now the edges are cleaner.
Yeah, the solution usually to control those kind of issues with the mesh. Remember that this kind of issues on the mesh depends of the topology. So that means that if you increase your resolution, you can do those particular problems. But at the end, you can reduce the general amount of polygons. But please be particular note, because by default, this particular node is working with 10. So if you click on it, first of all, what I would do is first I would place the node first before connecting anything. And what I would do first is to select a percentage. So for example, by default, this node is working with 100% of the amount of points. So first of all, what I would do is I would reduce first. You can reduce manually, put 500 if you want. Sorry, 50. Yeah, 50 if you want. So no, 50. Sorry, it's percentage. Yeah. So okay, now on the next part, you will output geometry. Yes, you have that. The preserve quads. Yes. You can click on it if you want to see what happened, and now you can turn the node on.
Okay.
And yes, this process will take time. Depends on the complexity of your geometry, the amount of points, Let's see what happened. But that's what I do. Then another way to control to clean your geometry, you could use Polydoctor. There is another node that is called Polydoctor. You can use that, but honestly, I think Polydoctor takes longer even.
So yeah, that's the other one. I should connect Polydoctor directly to color, or after Polyreduce.
Yeah, on this particular process, I wouldn't use Polydoctor because mostly I use Polydoctor when I have faces that are collapsing each other or normals that are looking in different directions. Okay. But for now, I won't use it. Polydoctor. But yeah, in Zbrush you can use Z-Remesher, or even you can use I know that there is a decimator there. You can use a decimator, and even you can use Dynamesh if you want. that's not a problem.
Yeah, so the workflow is like I export the mesh in ZBrush and then do the remeshing, because I just open ZBrush.
You can do it. You can do it as well. Yeah, sure.
My requirement is like I'll just quickly make a group and Control W. And,
yeah, you can do it. You can do it as well. Exactly.
Symmetry and Z remesher, keep groups. What I'm actually seeking is like,
yes,
this kind of thing.
Exactly. Yes.
Like
exactly.
the mesh is along the curvature. That's what I'm seeking in.
Yeah, you can even topologize there manually if you want. Yeah. Yeah, but it will take time. For example, if you want to retopologize something in Zbrush by using the manual option to retopologize, it will take time. It will take a lot. It will take a lot of time. So Zbrush is pretty nice when you're working with just I think one object. But if you're working procedurally, I mean, if you want to obtain several outputs, probably Zbrush won't be enough, because in Zbrush you need to work manually. That's the only problem. Even though you can connect Zbrush with Houdini, but what I used to do in the master at the beginning is I used to model first some base mesh on Zbrush and then connect it into Houdini. But what I didn't do, it's the opposite. So I don't know. I have never tested the opposite workflow. Maybe you could try to send data from Houdini into Zbrush. There are two nodes. There are two nodes for that, by the way. You could use. I will put it on the chat. You have GoZ input and you have GoZ export. I think import and export. Yeah, you have those particular nodes you could use. So when you for example activate the GoZ option in Zbrush, once you run that particular command in Zbrush, that the first node that appears automatically in Houdini is the GoZ import automatically. I have never tested this particular one, so maybe you could try. So just try and tell us later how it's going.
Yeah,
nice.
It works like instantly.
Nice. So maybe now you can retopologize it and you can send it again into Houdini. So probably a new node will appear on Houdini just next to your export nodes. So for example, once you remesh it, up there on the one of the first components on that particular chart on Zbrush is called GoZ.
Yes, at the top. Yeah,
yes, at the top, exactly.
It's still processing my mesh, so it's I think
exactly. Yeah, you can show where the button is, so the rest of the students can see it later.
It's actually it's processing right now.
But at the end, this particular way of interacting geometry between Houdini and Zbrush, I think it's amazing.
It broke everything. I mean, the mesh is smooth. The mesh is respecting the curvature, but at some places it has messed up. We'll have to play with the settings only.
Yeah, but right now you are dealing with 58,000. I think you can increase the amount of points. I think it's too few for that particular geometry. You should increase the amount of points. But yeah, but it's looking better. I mean, it's looking better because now the topology is, as you're saying, the topology is like following the general geometry, you know. And that looks better.
Looking more like it's looking very flaky and crunchy kind of thing. Like it's not very that it has lost its smoothness. So I think it's a balance between trying different Z remesher values and then
that's what I meant. You need to play with the amounts, with the final value of, I mean, the target count, as it says, the target count. Yeah, the once you finish, you go exactly to GoZ. And if it's the first time you're using it, if it's the first time that you use this particular option, the software will ask you to install the plugin. But that's immediate. That's immediately. It doesn't take too much time.
What will happen if I press GoZ? Cinema 4D will pop up because I have used multiple. I mean, bridging between GoZ and Cinema 4D.
Yes, but if you have already Houdini open, GoZ will detect that you have Houdini open, and it will ask you if you want to export it into it.
there is one option in which I can set where exactly I want Gozi to let's see if it works.
I usually just click on it and wait for it to ask me. It should ask you, but if not, I don't know exactly the way to set it manually, because normally it asks you.
No, it does not ask me. It directly drops. I think
Onto Cinema.
my laptop fans are like raising their sound, and I think Cinema 4D is opening in the background. Default,
okay.
I've set some default to. I've set the default Gozi bridging between Cinema 4D. I forgot how I did that.
Oh, okay. Let me check it, because this particular workflow is extremely useful. Extremely useful. So okay, let me check it out to see where exactly you set that particular option, and I will post it on the Discord channel for those who are interested on this particular workflow.
I'm just trying to find out where exactly there are how to
Right.
find those Gozi options. There are there are set of options for Gozi export.
Yeah, no worries, man. Try to do it on your own later. So later we can solve it together. Yeah. So, okay, guys. I don't know if some of you have another question, just so we can stop the live streaming and we can go directly into the board. Is it, or maybe Aman, you want to add something else?
Yeah, I just have to show them the last thing how you import it.
Okay.
That's it.
Please go.
I think just like 5 to 10 minutes more and then I'm done.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
All right. Okay. So let me just share my screen really quick, guys. Sorry about that. Okay. Let me just know when you see my screen.
It's fine.
Okay, cool. Right. So what I've done, I've pretty much imported the model itself. So what I got from Quixel was the model and these texture files, right? So I imported the model in the content browser, the OBJ, and I created another folder for textures where I'm going to place all my PNGs just to keep stuff organized. So these are my PNGs which I have inside. And simply just drag and drop your model, and you can go to the scale and just scale it up if it's really small. By default, I think you will find your material over here. After you import the models, there'll be a material called initial shading group, which will be all gray. So what we're going to do is you basically take these extra files. So you open your material and it's going to have this thing itself, where the initial shading group. So this is where you plug in all the materials and stuff, like how we did for Arnold. And basically what I did is I just went back to my content browser, go to textures, and I selected all of these, like shift select all these and drag them in this window. And they all pop up like these, like extra samples. And then it's only a matter of connecting everything to its original place. So by default, the naming and everything is all there. So if you like click on one, you can see that here the texture PNG file is called albedo. So you put that in the base color, and then this one is called metalness. So you put it in the metallic, and just like that, you complete everything, and you just save. You click save over there, and it's going to basically update the shader. And then you should be able to see your entire texture on your object, just how it was from Quixel. And then, yes, and then after that, you can, just apply your collision. So, be mindful that you need to always go and change your collision complexity to use complex collision as simple. So you can, walk around. And yeah, I think that's pretty much how you take stuff from Quixel. Just one last thing. This is something that I just made really quick just to show you how you put textures and shaders inside Unreal Engine. So you can go to anywhere you want, and you can click write material, and it's going to open a shader for you where you double click and it's just going to be blank. So what you can do is, if you want to put just a color inside the base color, you can search for vector parameter. And basically this is going to give you your color wheel. So there are like terminologies for Unreal Engine. So for color, it's called the vector parameter. If you want a numeric, a slider like how you have for Grasshopper, it's called a scalar parameter. So a scalar parameter is where you change values like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you want to change the color, you use a vector parameter. And this, I just plug it to the base color. And you can see it's going to change the shading over here. And if I double click on this, I can change the color and everything. So that's how you change the colors. If you want to place a texture, you press the tab key. So it's going to bring up this entire menu, and you search for texture. All right, what's the thing? It's weird. Wait, this is the texture sample. Yeah, okay, it's the texture sample. So if you have your own texture from your desktop or anything, you use the texture sample. And that's pretty much what Pixel did when it imported all the materials. It placed all the PNGs inside a texture sample on its own. So just for this to work, you need to have a texture inside your content browser. Now, in this case, I put just a PNG of this, liquefied texture, which I found on the net, and I'll show you how to do it. So I know it's in this directory, content, meshes, textures, and etc. Extra, my bad. So I click this, then there's going to be a detail panel that opens over here. It looks very complex, but in this case, I just want to go to the texture, and at the moment, there is no texture. So if I click on this, it's going to show me all the textures that I have in the content browser, all the way from the start to the end. So you just find your texture, like over here, there's the liquefied texture, and you just add it over here, and you can add this RGB to the base color. And yeah, that's pretty much going to give you the texture on your shader. And then you can save it. Always save after you do something, because otherwise, if you just do something and close it, it's not going to save, and then there may be some issues. To change the scale and the size of the UV, you can go the tab again and write texture coordinate. Oh my God. Yeah, so it's the texture coordinate. So this one is going to be something like this, like a red thing, and it's going, if you click on it, it's going to show you the U tiling and the V tiling. This is what we care about. And you place this in the UV, and you can change your scale to however that you want. So then it's going to calculate and it's going to change however it is. And yeah, so by default, it was 1:1. Yeah, okay, so this was the basics for the texture. Just something very quick. If you want to add like something like this, which I've done, like, of course, the theme is a bit off, but like you get the point. You have a good model. What I've done in this case is, so I used the same texture, and I used a panner, and I connected it with a texture coordinate. So I basically multiplied or used a linear interpolation. So it basically connects or blends the texture coordinate and the panner to the UV coordinate of my material. And the panner, what it does is it takes the texture, and based on the speed that you give it, it's just going to, move it and make it like dynamic. And that's what I did over here. And if at the moment I have opacity, so if I delete the opacity, it's going to be something else I have. emission color. So it's going to do something like this if you just apply the panel. What else I've done is just using the same texture, I've multiplied it with a scalar parameter just to set the strength of my emissive color. So my emissive color is same as the texture sample, but it shouldn't be. But you can use a black and white texture to basically give it a bit more, more smooth sort of looking material. And you basically apply the material, you basically multiply it with a scalar value to give the strength of how much you want the, emissive color to be. And just to make it a bit like a hologram look, I added a bit of the opacity. So it looks very translucent. And it's basically going to be something like, a ball that's floating inside my scene. So you can actually model a text on any software that you want and bring it here and give this sort of a look to it. So it's going to be something that's on top as you walk, something that's very translucent as you see in games. And yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm going to end it over here. Other than this, I'm going to send you guys a shading tutorial of Unreal Engine where I learned all the stuff. So it includes Fresnel. I know that someone had this issue about creating Fresnel material, and it has it, I think, in the 25th minute, if I'm not wrong, if I've memorized the video correctly. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll go stop here and probably just see the boards.
Nice. Nice. Thank you so much, man. I will stop right now the streaming. So for those who are watching on YouTube, thank you so much and see you tomorrow.